chances are that you've got one of these lying around the house. Either from that time you went skiing and thought you needed an action cam to record all your sick moves, or the summer you decided you were going to be a vlogger. You might now be wondering how you can turn this into a webcam to use in your DJ streams or even just for Zoom calls and things like that. GoPros for live streaming are actually really handy as they've got such a wide angle, which is great if you're in a tidy studio office like I am. Today I'll show you what you need to make this work and how I set mine up to record into my computer. GoPros can be kind of shitty on their own. The battery is pretty pants and they're so small, positioning them can be a pain. So here's a list of stuff that I use to make my GoPro more usable. The first thing you'll need is a capture card and all the cables which go with it. So a micro HDMI cable plus a high-speed USB 3 cable. You're also going to require a micro SD card. For powering the GoPro, I'd recommend getting a mini USB charger and a cable. I'd also recommend getting a stand for helping positioning the GoPro. The one I use is made by Benro. You might look at your GoPro and think because it's got a micro USB input that you can just plug it into your computer and use it as a webcam. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. The GoPro is no different than any other camera and you have to purchase a USB capture device for it to be detected by your computer. I've not bothered to make this video in the past because they've traditionally been pretty expensive. I actually bought this one off eBay second hand for £130 and it was £200 brand new. Luckily, these have come down in price a lot recently, making this method much more worthwhile. There's tons of these cheap OEM capture cards on Amazon for as little as £7. I've got one in the post to test and apparently they're pretty decent. If you don't want to risk going quite so cheap, you can also get the Elgato Stream Deck, which I do believe goes for around £130. It is important to make the distinction now that most of these cheap ones will only allow you to stream up to 1080p, not 4K like the Camlink, but for streaming and things like that, it's not super important. So first of all, plug all your cables in. The GoPro also needs to have a micro SD card inside of it to work, even if you're not recording to the GoPro. I also recommend plugging in a separate USB charger. If your GoPro is anything like mine, the batteries probably don't last too long, and this takes care of that. Setting up the camera is pretty straightforward. Make sure it's set to the correct NTSC or PAL settings for where you live. Europe, most of Asia and Oceania, most of Africa and also parts of South America use PAL, which is 25 or 50 FPS. North America mostly uses NTSC, which is the 24 to 60 FPS kind of format. We're going to be using OBS Studio to do the recording, so we want the FPS of the GoPro to match within OBS. This will help prevent dropped frames later on. I like to have my camera set at 1080p 50 FPS, although you could also go to 25 FPS if you wanted a little bit more motion blur. 25 FPS is slightly more natural looking motion blur, and 50 FPS would be a bit more kind of like sports where it's a bit more clear. Obviously I'm mostly recording DJ stuff, so I want it to be super clear. You can also choose how wide your GoPro is at this point. I find medium is wide enough for my needs. It's still pretty wide, so yeah, that's what I go with. Once you've plugged everything in, make sure the GoPro is on and has the SD card inside of it, obviously, then open up OBS. We then want to add a new HDMI input as a source within OBS. Choose the settings that I'm showing on the screen now. An image should now be getting transmitted from your GoPro to OBS. If it isn't, try restarting OBS or your computer and hopefully it should pop up. If you haven't already got everything set up properly within OBS, that's what you're going to want to do next. And I've got a full guide up here on how you can do that, which is much more in detail and it will answer all of your questions. So I'd recommend going to look at that if you haven't done so already. Peas and carrots, y'all.
Hi, good evening everyone. So on my channel, one of my past video about the using a GoPro as a with the HDMI last video and see all that. What I can tell you now is that do it here. Make sure that USB camera is selected and not your FaceTime HD camera. Easy as pie, just plug it in, automatically detected. So there you have it. I can confirm that this method also works on a Mac. My version for this Mac is Mojave, so this will work at least on Mojave, and I guess future version as well. You can try the luck on even earlier versions. So that will be it. Thank you for watching and you have a good night.
College students get free Gemini upgrade for 1 year.
Alright, good evening everyone. So ever since my GoPro webcam videos has been uploaded, there's been a lot of people that's been increasingly interested in getting this setup done. So, and a lot of people ask me about how to get rid of these status bars like what you're looking at right here, and I'm going to show you now. As you can see on my GoPro, that just you can look at the screen, or if you know how to connect that to your smartphone app, you can also connect to a smartphone and then use the app to make the adjustments. So what you do is that you press the front button a couple times until you hit settings. And then you hit the top button. And then you go down. Now before we get to the next session, I want to talk about the video format. So some people says that they cannot get the video to show up, and the video format can be an issue depending on where you live, I guess. So you could try to set this to NTSC and see what happens. Now this is where the problem is. So you just on screen display, you hit it to off, and then also you should check out the auto off. It should be never. And once that setting is done, you just quit the menu, and now that all the on-screen display is gone, then you can use this as a webcam properly. I hope that helps. Have a good day.
Mungkin awal-awal ada kejadian yang lain-lain sesuatu yang